So, what's Warren Buffett up to? Now, we've been paying attention to what this dude has been getting on with Japan, and it might not be a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe he's getting himself ready for a specific position that could actually come into fruition based on what Japan has in store for us. Welcome to today's live stream, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try and keep this one, again, nice and short and sweet, give you a few things that you need to be aware of on what is actually developing across the board. We're going to dive into what's happening with Forex, Bitcoin, and all of that madness and fun and games. So if you are new, hit the like button, subscribe. The market opens in roughly around 15 minutes time, so we're going to try and get as much information out to you as possible. So I hope you're all doing well. I'm not late. I'm just changing the time for the live. That's just for today, just to see how it goes. So let's get with the program, ladies and gentlemen, and break it all down for you. So just a quick overview on what's going on. We've got a couple of assets in front of you right now, a few actually. So we've got the euro on the left, dollar in the middle, and the NASDAQ on the right, just paying attention to what's going on. We've had some news announcements that haven't exactly been that great, in the sense where the data's come out showing that core durable goods orders came in at 9.2%, and then durable goods orders month on month came in lower, but unemployment claims coming in as usual in the normal routine. So the labor market is kind of strong. Going over into what's going on across the board, tariff concerns, dollars weakening. The White House keeps on changing the post, guys, and investors are getting a little bit frustrated about where they're going to position their capital. Not Warren, ladies and gentlemen. Warren has picked up $90 billion worth of, billion yen. Why is Warren picking up 90 billion yen? Does he know something? Is it because the rates of return on the Japanese yen are kind of good? Well, let's just go and have a look. 9.14%. Yeah, you know what? That looks like a nice flavorsome figure to me. 4.11% on the euro as well. That's very interesting, isn't it? So it's like we kind of get an insight into where money could effectively be going. Going into the article itself, it says here that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway issued 6 new yen bonds worth 90 billion yen. Now, the word on the street is that they are going to look to try and increase their interest rate. So if you're going to get an increase on interest rate, you might as well get yourself locked in with a decent rate of return on the bonds. So it does pay to hold bonds in Japan. So if that's going to be the case and we have any history repeating itself, then the story is that maybe it might not be a good thing for everything else across the board. Breaking it all down for you, ladies and gentlemen. We're going over and have a look at what's going on. You've got the euro taking a bit of a mad move to the downside right now. Let me just quickly flip this over. Happy days. Now, so euro coming back down a little bit. It hasn't tested the daily open as such. Going over into the strength of the dollar dominance itself, you can see that dollar is basing out at these lows right now. You've got the NASDAQ itself coming into, it's done a nice little bounce from this range, guys, but it's a little bit fishy, saying that it can't really clear out the Asian session high. Rolling over into Bitcoin right now. See Bitcoin trying to make a little bit of traction to the upside. Daily open is something that they haven't tested in a little while, but investors are all over the place with what's going to be revealed today. Look at this. Donald Trump is a busy dude today. He's moving about, so when he's traveling, the markets are all good. All right, but he's going to be having a meeting with the Prime Minister of Norway. Is he going to mention anything about tariffs? More than likely. Is he going to talk about his executive orders, tariffs? More than likely. Now they're going to be having a little bit of leeway on Chinese auto parts as well. So the problem that I've got with that is of course, Bessent said yesterday that the trade deal story with China might last around 2 to 3 years. What the hell? 2 to 3 years of this madness of back and forth? No, thank you. Quickly breaking it all down for you, having a look at what else we've got going off across the board. Go into the actual order flow for Bitcoin. Now, we've got some bids right here that could give us the idea that there may be some interest down below. The offers are starting to dry up inside of this range right here, guys. So if they're not offering, that means no one's selling. That could imply that there's not going to be that much interest to start buying Bitcoin, but they buy it when it drops. And that's what you've got to be very cautious about. They buy when prices go down and they sell it when prices go up. Now, with that being said, going into the liquidations, we do have quite a few liquidations around the 94 zone, but there is speculation that 95K could be the resistance point for Bitcoin. So what will trigger the breakout, in essence, it's the ETF. So we had $913 million worth of inflows in the ETF a couple of days ago. So it looks kind of promising, but we're still at the balance of 573. Looking at where we are on the ETF, you can see there's been quite a bit of movement happening on the ETF, which is good news for us, because as long as people are going into the ETF, logic says that Bitcoin's price should be fluctuating at the benefit of that. The problem is the ETF hasn't gone up in balances. Like, there's not been a milestone hit just yet. It just keeps on bouncing around this 573, 574, and then goes down to 571. It's not really developing much. But is this a potential play in the sense where, are they using the Bitcoin ETF and buying spot on there and shorting Bitcoin futures? That's something that we've got to take into consideration when we deal with that. Now, with that being said, going into it all, the article does go on to say that this trade war with Trump and China has got a lot of investors seeking safe havens. So going back into it, safe havens, Japanese yen. Japanese yen is up today 0.66%. Of course, if they're going to increase the interest rates, then we're going to have a problem in the near future. And if you want to understand what kind of impact the market has when they increase interest rates, go and look at the 5th of August. Last year. So that was a bit of a problem where the stock market took a nosedive on the back of that information. Other safe haven assets that we got right here is gold. Gold is starting to pull back ever so slightly. Now, the idea is that you're probably going to see gold bouncing up and down for a little bit as investors try and gauge the idea of where investors' heads are at with regards to the tariffs. This back and forth with the White House and not giving investors the clear path to put money to work has got investors saying, you know what, we just need to keep on going into what we know, and that is the safe haven environment. Now, the safe haven environment includes gold itself, it does include the euro, and it does include the Japanese yen, and it includes the Swiss franc. So when you start seeing those assets being mentioned together, it tells you that investors are effectively seeking the safety of safe havens. They don't want to take the risk of going risk on into the asset classes. And that means the NASDAQ itself. Yep, NASDAQ looks like it's up 0.1. It is up 0.18% for the day. It's currently stalling at the daily open. And then we go into other assets. We've got Tesla, which is effectively... Hold on. Where's Tesla? Where is my out-of-hours market? Hold on a second. Where is my price point? Out-of-hours market's actually not even moved. That's decent. So Tesla's not even gapping up or down. Going into NVIDIA, NVIDIA's gapping up ever so slight. And you can see the volatility. It's all crazy. Look, gap up, gap down. It's kind of interesting. But I do believe that NVIDIA is still on the trajectory to start working itself lower, back down to the 90 mark. I'm looking for that logic itself. Dollar yen. Dollar yen is very interesting because, of course, with regards to Warren Buffett picking up these big amounts of yen, could be that he's fully aware that these guys are going to increase their interest rates in the near future. So there could be more volatility coming into play. But Japan has kind of dismissed the idea that the tariffs are going to impact their decision on increasing the interest rates. That's why you're now hearing about a potential deal with Japan. It's going to be all good and what have you. But I don't think Japan cares realistically too much about the tariffs. It's already got a problem of deflation. Its asset is completely annihilated. And any conversation that you hear Trump having, it's about the manipulation of the currency of the yen. And that's what Trump doesn't want. He wants the Japanese yen to be revalued in principle so that both parties see the benefit, because when the yen is going down, it naturally encourages investors to go over there and borrow money. Trump doesn't want that. He wants you to borrow dollars. But when you're borrowing dollars and you're having to pay 4.5% on that amount with no trajectory of seeing them cutting the rates, we just had one of the Fed speakers suggesting, yeah, maybe in June we'll probably do something, but certainly not in May. So then that means that this bet right here about the interest rates, 93.9, it's still staying high. Now, you got to ask yourself the question, why did Trump even bother mentioning that he wanted to get rid of Powell, to only turn around and say, look, we're going to keep him in, but we just want him to hurry up with the interest rates. Obviously, there's powers that be behind Trump. In my opinion, I think that's the case. If you don't believe that, well, I think there is some logic behind it. But his back and forth continuously is going to be a bit of a problem for investors. But the only thing you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is when you look at things like this, when you want to get a feel for what money could be doing, you're getting 4.11% on the euro and 9.14% on the yen. That's where the yield is. And if you're an investor, a hedge fund manager, what is your goal? Yield. That's all you care about. Where can I make my money work for itself? Okay? Now, going into that, let's go and have a look at the bond market itself, and then we can finalize the day and keep it short and sweet. Smart money is not backing this Bitcoin move. Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one. So let's see what smart money is really doing. 10-year bonds market. Looking like it's trading higher. It's up 0.046% for the day. Going into the 2-year yield, that is down, but it's starting to show a little bit of interest to start working its way up. 5-year is down, but coming up. And also the 10-year and the 30-year seem to be they're stuck in a range, which explains why the NASDAQ has effectively made a little bit of a move to the upside because the yields are down. But I warn you, please, 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 the fact that Warren is going over and buying yen, okay, and he's buying yen bonds, means that he is in the expectation that his return later on is going to be much more better, but he's also buying companies, okay? So if Japan increases the interest rates, even though the interest rates are so low, it's still going to grab investors' attention to try and take advantage of that yield at a higher rate. So it's like a catch-22. It's the benefit for Japan. And that's what Trump doesn't want. You're, in essence, encouraging foreign investors to go to Japan because your dollar right now is just too expensive. And that's why Trump keeps banging on about cutting the rates, just to encourage people to invest in the bonds market. Question. Tino, I just joined the Platinum membership. How do I know I joined the real one, not a fake one? My username is Anchored VWAP. Could you please search me up on the Discord if you don't mind? Okay, go to the website chat. In the website, we've got a chat. Please reach out over there. It's unless there's only one Platinum membership, man. Yeah, come to the website chat and give us a shout, and we'll conversate over there, my friend. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah, P&G earnings. Yeah, Procter & Gamble didn't exactly inspire confidence. Yeah, but the thing is, right, with those sort of companies, they are cash-rich companies. I mean, let's just have a look at where we are with the stock market. So Wednesday's action, you saw 403 stocks up and then down 103 stocks. But you've only got 4 stocks breaking out today and 18 near a pivot. Inside of those 4 stocks, what are the staple names? Do we see anyone that we recognize? That's what you look for when you see stocks breaking out. We've got NatWest Group, which is in principle, it's a bank. Let's be honest now. Having a look, you've got a bank that's breaking out, looking like $12.76. Volume is very, very good at 6.7 million average daily volume, which is good. Then you've got StoneX Group right there. What is that average daily volume? Shit, no good for me because it's too small. It's below a million. Virtual Finance, just under a million, over a million. Not really a company that we all know as a staple. And then you've got Stride right here, which is effectively 700,000, and it's consumer services, education. These are not staple names. When you've got Google, Amazon, Apple, or any companies that do carry weight in the sense where their average daily volume is above 1 million shares or more, then you can add weight to the idea that the market is trying to make movements to the upside. Going into the NASDAQ to have a look at where we are with the volume accumulation, you can see that NASDAQ today, or yesterday, had a volume bar close above the 50-day average, which is good news. But price didn't close so strongly at its range. Look, right there, that little bar right there is showing it's closing very, very close to its open. Sorry, to its lows of the range. That's not a good candle. Because even though the volume is above average, it's showing you that there was a lot of selling or marking down, which brought the actual index down. And it's just managed to barely close positive. That's no good for us, ladies and gentlemen. We need to see strong closes to suggest the idea of accumulation to the upside. Now, with that being said, quickly going over and have a look at where Bitcoin is in relation to this candlestick right here on the daily time frame. Here we go. So what have we got? So Bitcoin. So we've had 1, 2, 3 candlesticks, right? Now, this vector here is going to solidify the idea if Bitcoin does have weight to continue higher. If they do break down and go beyond the midpoint of this vector candle, 90,479 is the test. If Bitcoin invalidates that, it's dustbin, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to the bin. That's the truth. So, I'm trying to code a trading bot. Okay, bot for myself, not to sell. By the way, what would you say is the perfect percentage of a stop loss? There's no such thing as a perfect percentage stop loss. Everyone throws about the 1% and what have you, but it's all down to your tolerance of risk. What can you absorb? What can you handle? Okay, so it's risk stop losses are just an absolute joke when it comes to it because there's no all one round figure for it. That's the truth of it. Do you think the markets will take a dive around May 7th if the rates don't get cut? But also, initial result of the April 10 tariffs where containers were sent back to China and retail stores running empty. Okay, look, this is when we see it on a larger scale. I mean, the problem that we've got now is layoffs are starting to happen where Intel's trying to get rid of 20% of its workforce. So that's going to have a nice impact on the Fed because they then will start cutting rates if it does start to compromise the economy. And when you get a compromising situation with the labor market, well, the labor market is going to tell you if your economy is good or not. But what do you hear them saying all the time? You hear them saying that the labor market is good, everything is fine, don't worry, we are strong, we are strong. Why should they cut the rates? They need to get down to 2%. So regardless of whatever tankers aren't getting their products over and what have you, ultimately, when you look at that, you got to say to yourself, okay, then what companies are going to be impacted by that? Because I'm going to think about that, not from a macro perspective, but look at it from an opportunity and say to myself, okay, if I think that there's going to be a reduction in supplies or any products that aren't getting over to China and from China, then what are the companies that are involved in that? And then what's that going to do to them? Well, if I think it's going to have a negative impact, let me go and have a look at what their cash flow is. And if their cash flow is okay, then it means that they can absorb any discrepancies that might actually happen in the marketplace. Always when you're dealing with stock, ladies and gentlemen, look at a fundamental, look at the stock's cash value, look at its cash holdings. How is it managing cash? Because any of these instances where we're seeing the markets correcting and what have you, naturally, those companies are going to be able to survive all of that madness. Okay? Focus on the cash flows. Mad love to you, man. Thank you, Devon. Been a while. I hope you make it to 130k subscribers soon and many more. Mad love to you, my bro. Yeah, if you are new, hit the like button, subscribe. It's free to do. You didn't have to do that, my bro. Thank you so much, man. Any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? But this cycle's strangely different with hedge funds and Wall Street getting involved. They only want the bitty. Yeah, I guess. Tina, do you trade the idea of a 5 and 13 EMA with multiple tokens, not just Bitcoin? Yeah, listen, look, a move in Bitcoin, okay? If you see Bitcoin moving aggressively to the upside, let's look at it like this, right? Bitcoin is slow. It's a slow moving asset in principle, okay? But then when you look at Solana, it's a little bit more faster, okay? So when you're making reference to the 5 and 13 EMA, and if you are new, go and do this course on the Traders Reality website. Go and do it. It's a free course. And you'll understand the 5 and 13 EMA, all the moving averages. Of course, everything is not there. There you go. So this one right here, breaking down the hybrid system. Do this free course. It will take you an hour. It's going to help you understand the hybrid system, which is what we trade on this chart right here. You've got the logic of green, blue, vectors and EMAs and whatnot. So this is where the basis and the foundation of this system will be taught inside of that free course right there. So go and check that bad boy out. But in regards to the 5 and 13 EMA, a basic way to trade it in principle is look at it in reference to the 50 EMA. If the 5 and 13 EMA are moving above the 50 EMA and they're crossing over, that's a good momentum sign. That's a sign that they could continue with the narrative to the upside. Altcoins will be moving faster, so take that into consideration. So the bigger the asset, the slower it moves, the longer it might take for the momentum to start breaking down, of course, if there's any wild news announcements. So just take that into consideration when you are trading it. But a basic strategy is when the 5 and 13 EMA, which is this yellow line and this red line, when they cross over the 50 EMA, which is this purple cloud blue line, that suggests that momentum is going to start coming into the chart. With that being said, look left to see if you can justify the crossover by looking for previous vectors to get recovered. Okay? So just look at any previous structures that they've got and then look to try and see if you can exploit the move to the upside on that narrative. Okay? Tino, should we buy USD JPY? No. You shouldn't. You shouldn't buy USD JPY. Why? The reason why you shouldn't buy USD JPY is because I don't think dollar's strength is done. All right. I don't know who said it yesterday, but they said, yeah, the dollar is in the best place it can be. That's it. ECB speaker turned around and said the dollar is in the best place that it can be. I think he's taking the piss because you have zero purchasing power on your dollar right now. Zero purchasing power. 98. Ah, man, no thank you. It's not very good, you know? But in regards to dollar yen itself, because anyone that's trading dollar yen, just be mindful when Trump has a conversation with anyone from Japan, because Trump's goal is to address the idea that there is manipulation in the Forex markets, especially with the Japanese. Listen to this. Look, let me show you what I'm talking about. In front of you right now is going to be a concept called Japan FX intervention. Okay. So this chart right here shows you that when the Bank of Japan wants to deflate the value of the dollar against the Japanese yen, because they can't really have too much of a strong dollar against the yen. Okay, so what do? They go and buy a ton load of dollars and then sell them into yen, which in principle reduces the value of dollar against the yen. And you see these blue lines right here? This is where they intervene. Okay, this is where they go and buy lots and lots of dollars, convert it into yen, so that they can just bring down the appreciation of the dollar yen, right? This is what Trump wants to stop, because he's convinced that they are manipulating, which in us, they are manipulating the markets, man. Come on. They really are. Look at your yen. It's just so smacked to the downside. It's got more zeros than a flipping meme coin. Got meme coins performing better than the Japanese yen. And on top of that, this is a safe haven. So if Warren Buffett is buying up yen, it means that they're getting ready for some yen recovery, guys. Mark my words. They are going to eat this liquidity like no tomorrow. Carry trade, ladies and gentlemen. That's what's happening. With that being said, if you've enjoyed today, fart coin. Do you know what? In the Platinum membership, there is only one coin that they talk about, and they make money on this coin, right? It's fart coin. What a coin. I've not said anything to any of them, right? Because they're getting their analysis bang on every time. Right? They're making money just on this coin. Leave them be. Fart coin is a very, very, very good asset to trade. It moves so aggressively. Okay. But looking at it, you can see that it's just, I mean, this thing, like, what last week, like these are just, it's just a brilliant asset. It just respects everything. You see a vector candle, will come back into it, cover it, bounce 50 EMA. It's one of those assets that you can really, really enjoy trading. Of course, be careful with it, but it is a nut job. It just, the conversations I've seen the guys having about it is mad. We trade the NASDAQ, the S&P, Euro, gold, Bitcoin. Then every 5 minutes you're seeing the word fart coin. I'm like, who's farted? Like, why are you farting? And there's all these little indirect jokes, like took a short on fart, and someone will say shit happens, and it's anyways, yes, that's fine. Anyways, any other questions, ladies and gentlemen? Tino, any thoughts on the pound versus the dollar from the point of view timing buying US equities into an ISA? Do not buy US equities yet. In my opinion, don't buy them yet. Do not buy US equities just yet, because if they're not picking up bonds, okay, and they're not really right, in my opinion, what I think is going to happen is this. We're waiting for, in principle, a bond crash. I want a bond crash. And the reason why I want the bond market to crash is because it then realigns everything. It sets everything up to reset, to go back up again, okay? Interest rates are too high. Yields are all over the place because the yields aren't really reflecting that high rate of interest. But what's going on is investors are subject to changes in policy from the White House. If there's no consistency with trade deals and all of that stuff, these things right here are very volatile. And investors are like, oh, I don't know what to do. Should I go into the bonds now? Or, all right, let me get it out because we're going to change the way things are going to be done over here in regards to the deal with China. Or we got no deal with China. Or China says yes. No. US says no. No. Where shall we put up? You know what? Forget it. Let's just go into gold and just leave our money there. That's the problem we've got. Because you've got high interest rates, because you've got inflation, and because you've got competing currencies that are all out for everyone to grab the yield, this is what Trump doesn't like. 4.11% on the euro, and then you go over, and it's for 23 days. You go on to a 2-year on the dollar itself, and look, you're getting 3.79. No, thank you. What, carry the risk? Nah, I'm not carrying that risk. No. So then they go elsewhere. And there's your boy right here. Why are you buying yen, man? Why is he buying yen? From a statistical point of view, it makes sense. 9.14%. He's buying Japanese stock. They're going to increase the interest rates. They're going to encourage more investors to come in. That's just going to make it difficult for any other asset against the US dollar. Well, yeah, Bitcoin and Solana, ETH, and the gang as such. But that's my view on where we are from a macro perspective. if the yield is there, what's going to happen? It's not going to advertise and say, look, you can earn 4.11% over here, but don't worry, you don't have to do it because we want Bitcoin to the moon. Any nation that is getting ready to change something on their interest rates, pay attention to that currency. Have a look at who's getting involved in it, and that's going to tell you where risk is going to be going. Warren, for example, looks like Japanese stock is the way forward. Yen's going to increase. Carry traders are going to wet the bed. Dollar's going to go down. Euro's going to go up. That can position you into the idea that US stocks are going to come down. Investors are going to go to European stocks and Japanese stocks. Look at their interest rates. It's cheap as chips. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, mad love and respect, and I'll be tuning into you all later on tonight. Take care of yourselves, gang. Hit the like button, subscribe. It's free. Peace. Stop winking.